Seth Rollins just destroyed his entire babyface legacy. Seth Rollins unmasked himself at Elimination Chamber as the person who's been attacking Braun Breaker for months, and in one moment WWE destroyed years of character development that positioned Seth as the locker room leader, the veteran who helps young talent, and the reliable babyface who always does the right thing. This wasn't a shocking heel turn with logical motivation. This was character assassination that makes no sense based on Seth's recent storylines and contradicts everything he's stood for since rebuilding his reputation after his 2019 heel run failed. This isn't about whether Seth can play a heel. He's proven he's talented enough to play any role. This is about WWE wasting 2 years of babyface work by having Seth become a cowardly masked attacker who targets Braun Breaker, of all people, a second-generation star who Seth has no history with, no reason to target, and who represents exactly the kind of young talent Seth has been mentoring rather than attacking throughout his recent run. The motivation makes no sense, the target makes no sense, and the execution makes Seth look crazy rather than calculated. But here's what makes this absolutely infuriating. Braun Breaker is WWE's supposed future star, someone they should be protecting and building toward main event dominance. And WWE's brilliant plan for elevating him is to have him be the victim of months of attacks by someone who just got revealed as a former Shield member and multiple-time world champion who gains nothing from targeting a relative newcomer. How does this help Braun? How does this help Seth? How does this help anyone except WWE creative, who apparently needed to fill time with a mystery angle they clearly didn't plan properly? Hit that like button and subscribe to Wrestling News CC, because I'm about to expose exactly why Seth as the masked attacker makes zero sense, how this revelation destroys both Seth's and Braun's credibility, and why this is yet another example of WWE creating mystery angles without actually planning who the mystery person will be or why they're doing what they're doing. Let me walk you through this disaster of a reveal, because every aspect shows WWE had no plan. For 3 months, someone in a mask has been attacking Braun Breaker, jumping him after matches, sabotaging his entrances, costing him opportunities. Standard mystery attacker formula that WWE has done dozens of times with varying levels of success, mostly failure. Throughout these months, WWE gave zero clues pointing toward Seth being involved. Seth appeared on TV regularly, cutting babyface promos, having matches, acting as the veteran locker room leader. There were no character moments suggesting he had a dark side or secret agenda targeting young talent. No breadcrumbs that would make this reveal feel earned in retrospect. At Elimination Chamber, the masked attacker strikes again during a backstage segment where Braun is preparing for his match. The attacker ambushes Braun, and this time security actually manages to corner them before they can escape. The attacker is surrounded with nowhere to run, so they remove the mask to reveal Seth Rollins standing there in his gear, having apparently been under the disguise this entire time despite appearing elsewhere on the show earlier, which makes no logical sense, but we'll get to that. The crowd reaction is confused. Not shocked, excited confusion. Genuine wait, what confusion, because this makes no sense based on everything we know about Seth's character and his complete lack of connection to Braun Breaker. Seth grabs a microphone to explain. You want to know why? You want to know why I've been targeting Braun Breaker for months? Because I'm sick of hearing about the future of WWE. Sick of young guys like Braun getting opportunities handed to them because of their last name, while veterans like me who've earned everything have to keep proving ourselves over and over. It's generic, bitter veteran motivation that WWE has used hundreds of times. Nothing specific to Seth's actual character or situation. Nothing that explains why he targeted Braun specifically instead of other young wrestlers. Nothing that makes this feel like Seth Rollins' story rather than just a stock heel turn. Braun Breaker thinks he's the next big thing because his grandfather and uncle were champions. Seth continues with forced bitterness that doesn't match his previous character at all. But he hasn't earned anything. He's been given everything because of his name. And I decided someone needed to teach him that this business isn't about heritage, it's about work. And I'm going to keep making his life hell until he either quits or actually earns his spot. The explanation doesn't just fall flat, it contradicts Seth's recent character. Seth has been mentoring young talent. He's been the guy who helps people develop rather than tearing them down out of jealousy. Having him suddenly become bitter about second-generation stars makes no sense when he's never expressed those views before. Here's why this reveal is catastrophically bad for both wrestlers involved. For Seth, it destroys 2 years of character rehabilitation. After his 2019 heel run failed miserably, Seth spent years rebuilding as a reliable babyface who could be trusted to carry the company when needed. He became the locker room leader, the veteran presence, the guy who shows up every week and does his job at the highest level. Now all that work is wasted. Seth is back to being a heel, but not in a way that feels earned or logical. He's a heel because WWE needed someone to be the masked attacker and apparently pulled Seth's name out of a hat without considering whether it made narrative sense. For Braun Breaker, this is damaging in different ways. He's been positioned as WWE's next monster, someone who should be dominant and fearless. But he just spent 3 months being repeatedly victimized by a masked attacker he couldn't catch or stop. That makes him look incompetent rather than strong. And when the attacker is revealed to be Seth, someone Braun should theoretically be able to physically overpower given their respective ages and physical conditions, it makes Braun look even weaker. How is Braun unable to stop or identify someone who's been attacking him for months when that person is someone he could beat in a straight fight? The motivation makes no sense from Seth's perspective either. Seth claims he's targeting Braun because of nepotism and second-generation privilege, but Seth has never expressed those views before. He's never been bitter about young talent. He's never shown jealousy toward legacy wrestlers. This is a motivation WWE invented for this storyline rather than something organic to Seth's character. Compare this to past Seth heel turns. When Seth betrayed the Shield in 2014, the motivation was clear opportunity and ambition. When he aligned with the Authority, it made sense for his character. Those turns felt earned even if fans didn't like them. This turn? It feels random and forced because WWE created a mystery angle without knowing who the mystery person would be, then plugged Seth into the role when they needed an answer. The locker room reaction is reportedly frustrated. Seth himself is said to be unhappy with how this storyline is being handled. He wanted more build-up and character work to make the turn feel logical, but WWE wanted the shock reveal and didn't care if it made narrative sense. Braun Breaker is reportedly disappointed that his big catch the attacker's storyline conclusion makes him look weak rather than strong, and that the reveal was someone with no logical connection to him rather than someone where their confrontation would feel personal and earned. Here's what should have happened if WWE was committed to this reveal. First, plant seeds throughout the months of attacks. Show Seth reacting strangely to news about Braun's success. Have Seth make subtle comments about legacy wrestlers getting special treatment. Create doubt in viewers' minds that builds toward the reveal. Second, establish an actual reason Seth would target Braun specifically. Maybe Braun inadvertently cost Seth an opportunity. Maybe Seth sees too much of young arrogant Seth in Braun and wants to toughen him up. Something that creates personal stakes beyond generic veteran jealousy. Third, have the reveal happen through Braun's investigation rather than security randomly cornering the attacker. That gives Braun agency and makes him look smart for figuring it out rather than lucky that someone else caught the attacker. But WWE did none of that because they clearly didn't plan this storyline beyond masked attacker mystery and scrambled to come up with an answer when they ran out of time to stall. My prediction? This feud fails to generate significant interest because the foundation doesn't make sense. They have a match at WrestleMania or sooner. Braun wins to overcome his attacker, but the victory feels hollow because the entire storyline was poorly conceived. Seth eventually turns babyface again within 6 months when WWE realizes this heel run isn't working, and we all pretend these months never happened. The fan reaction has been overwhelmingly negative. Social media is flooded with "this makes no sense, why would Seth do this?" terrible reveal, and confusion about the logic behind Seth targeting Braun specifically. Even Seth's most loyal fans are expressing disappointment that their favorite got put into a poorly planned mystery angle that contradicts his recent character development. Drop your thoughts. Does Seth as Braun's attacker make any sense? Is this character assassination or justified heel turn? And can this feud be salvaged despite the poor setup? Comments below. This is Wrestling News CC, calling out WWE's pattern of failed mystery angles that damage everyone involved. Subscribe for coverage that demands better planning and storytelling. Seth Rollins is the masked attacker. His motivation is generic and contradicts his recent character. Braun Breaker looks weak for not catching him sooner. And WWE destroyed years of character work for both men with one poorly planned reveal. This is yet another example of WWE creating mystery angles without knowing who the mystery person will be or why they're doing what they're doing. And both Seth and Braun are paying the price for creative's lack of planning. Seth deserved better. Braun deserved better. Fans deserved better than watching WWE repeat the same mistakes with mystery angles that never work out satisfyingly. When will WWE learn? Hashtag Seth Rollins, hashtag Braun Breaker, hashtag WWE, hashtag Elimination Chamber, hashtag Masked Attacker, hashtag Terrible Reveal, hashtag Character Assassination.